Hello everyone and welcome back to our latest video. Now, it frequently happens that you read in the newspaper or see in the news reports of lavish weddings that are full of guests, worthy of celebrations shown in romantic movies. Many newlyweds are movie stars, children of big businessmen, nobles and famous personalities. But there are also couples unknown to the general public, with their wedding attracting the spotlight, not only for the excessive luxury, but especially for their families who organise these events. These are well-known, scary surnames that are associated with violent crime and powerful organisations. The weddings of mafia bosses, their sons and their families never go unnoticed because organised crime wants to show all its prestige on these occasions and isn't afraid of suffering the consequences. Very often it happens that fugitives, well hidden and wanted all over the world, show up at weddings or funerals of members of their own clan or allies without a care in the world, without worrying about being arrested. This is because religious celebration for the Mafia is paramount. It's nothing to do with spirituality, but with a demonstration of power necessary to maintain the order of the structure and intact hierarchies. It must be said that the weddings linked to Cosa Nostra, Camorra and Ndrangheta are rarely celebrated out of real devotion. The bride and groom and their clans aren't particularly interested in the sacrament and prayer, but rather in form and appearance. Organising a religious wedding for organised crime members means maintaining a certain respectability in front of the broader community. The celebrations somehow connect the Mafia and the church, and this understanding allows the bosses and their relatives to consolidate their identity in the territory, acquiring at the same time a sort of apparent approval from the clergy. All this is very much linked to the Italian tradition that, especially in the southern regions of Italy, still tends to respect those who are united in the sacred bond of marriage, those who attend the church and participate in religious services. And this applies both externally and internally, because a boss who lives with a partner out of wedlock or cheats on his wife and is caught doing it is a mafioso who loses prestige. A striking example is that of Tommaso Buscetta. And yes, that guy, and we have a great series of videos on him that you really should check out. Now, Buscetta failed to make his way into the top of the echelons of the Sicilian Mafia because he just had too many relationships with women that were publicly known. And if you watch the video of the trial when Raina and Buscetta were put face to face, you'll notice how Raina insists on Buscetta's like for women and his affairs as an offence to Buscetta. He's basically saying he's not a real Mafia member because he's had a lot of other women alongside his wife. It's just as if he was offending him and trying to diminish him as a man who doesn't obey the oath he took. It's really interesting stuff. But now back to today's theme. So, a first point that makes religious celebrations important is respectability. The second is prestige. Mafia weddings are luxurious and exaggerated. Hundreds of guests, dream locations, endless banquets are just some of the elements that are never lacking in the organisation of these events. The more you spend, the more you show your power. Even the participants at the wedding contribute to the reputation of the organisers. Allied families, well-known personalities, movie stars and well-known businessmen are of course guests who do nothing but show that the clan of the bride or groom is respected and of course powerful. A third point that makes religious celebrations important are alliances between criminal families. Very often, weddings are an opportunity for clans to meet, maintain relationships and create new ones through weddings, but also to organise crimes, introduce new affiliates and try to solve problems. But in short, they're real summits of organised crime held in sumptuous places where the bride and groom and the wedding sometimes have very little importance as compared to everything else that's really going on. Between one wedding meal course and another, agreements are concluded and the fugitive bosses have the opportunity to show themselves again and consolidate their prestige. And of course, the same goes for funerals. Mourning is the right occasion to make fruitful meetings, sanction alliances and end feuds. Mafia weddings are not uncommon, but some have been so lavish and exaggerated as to end up on the front pages of newspapers, while others have caused a stir because of the names of the bosses involved. An example is the recent wedding between the nephew of Michele Greco, the famous boss who in the 80s occupied the most privileged place in the Cupola, that's the Sicilian name of their mafia commission, and the daughter of the head of the Porta Nuova district in Palermo, Gregorio Di Giovanni. Di Giovanni, after having been released from his 6-year sentence, accompanied the bride to the altar, and the newlyweds, after a refined celebration, climbed on a fairy tale carriage drawn by horses and found themselves with all the guests in a secret location, probably in the Ciaculli area, to celebrate the rest of the wedding. Another example to cite is that of the marriage of the 2 daughters of the boss Salvatore Riccobono, a fugitive who in the 1980s didn't fail to attend the celebrations, both organised in the same chapel and then the celebrations in the same hotel, the Hotel Zagarella Sea Palace in Santa Flavia. The episodes also highlight the symbolic importance of the locations, which were chosen carefully and are rarely the result of a coincidence. Finally, we can't fail to mention a funeral that a few years ago shocked the capital and the entire Italian population, the one of the boss Vittorio Casamonica, defined the King of Rome and the head of the mafia family that controls large areas of the region around Rome. And that may, of course, be the topic of another video of ours, so keep watching. The event brought the city to a halt, and according to the authorities, no one knew anything about it. In fact, it wasn't a simple funeral, but a real public show that took place in front of the Don Bosco Church in Rome, where the sumptuous funeral was celebrated. Giant posters with the photo of the boss above the Colosseum and the phrase, "You have conquered Rome, now you will conquer paradise," were affixed in front of the place of worship. An ancient and baroque carriage, drawn by 6 black horses, carried the dead boss along the streets of the Italian capital to the church. Behind the coffin, a band played the soundtrack of The Godfather. Meanwhile, from a helicopter, hundreds of rose petals were thrown on those present. To finish, the coffin was moved in a Rolls-Royce, accompanied by the notes of the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey. Mafia weddings and funerals still make people talk, and it seems that this very unreligious but prestigious tradition will continue to be part of the mafia culture for a long time to come. Organised crime will not easily abandon this way of doing things because they've fully understood how important celebrations can be in order to gain prestige. The bosses have learnt from the powerful of the past. Roman emperors and European kings, in fact, use weddings and funerals to demonstrate their power to the people and make their dominion more solid. And this is the ultimate goal of the clan leaders. It's all about putting on the show. And boy, do the mafia do that. So that was a little insight into another aspect of the culture of the mafia that we hope you found as fascinating as we do. Now, with loads more videos in the pipeline looking at all sorts of aspects of organised crime, and particularly the key and utterly fascinating individuals who have risen through the ranks to lead these global syndicates throughout their history. So, do make sure you subscribe so you don't miss when we release the next one. And of course, if you did enjoy the video and want more, we do appreciate a like whilst you're at it. Many thanks, and we'll see you next time.